It's 1:05 p.m. on November 24th, 2025. We call to order this meeting of the Bonner County Board of Commissioners with the Planning Department for their Planning Department monthly update. We'll start with public comment. Do we have anyone who would like to offer public comment? Jonna Plant?
Yes, Jonna Plant. I just wanted to mention and ask regarding the breach of the Bonner County Revised Code Title 12. I realize that an audit is not going to happen due to the financial burden that may be, and I'm sure you're still looking into that, but I still would like to make sure that nobody can do that in the future. Nobody can have an agenda or have an issue where or can be on any board where they can use their email address to change the code online. It's just really concerning that happened and nobody knows who did it or why. So with all these volunteers working hard to pick out the exact wording of it, it's just really horrible that somebody can change that. So I don't know if Alex or who's responsible for that, but I feel like there needs to be a system set up that nobody else can send things in to change our own laws.
Thank you, John. And I will say that I've not personally come to the conclusion that we can't or won't do any type of audit. There's been work happening in the background trying to determine what methodology could be utilized. So that hasn't been determined yet. And what our internal policies and practices are is a part of that conversation. And so I think we still have an opportunity to look at whether or not there's ways to tighten that up. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Do we have anyone else online? Nope. Okay. All right, then with that, we'll turn it over to the Planning Department for any announcements they have.
Okay, thank you, Alex Fan, Interim Planning Director. Let's see, I don't have any announcements as a whole that I won't go through in our update here, so I'll just get started on our application reports here. So this past month we had 67 building location permits. It looks like it's a bit of a downturn from the past couple of years, but our revenue shows a little different, mostly because of the way our new system works, is that we don't take payment until somebody's reviewed the file, and we don't take payment right away. So our revenue will look a little bit different on building location permits, but our numbers are a little bit less than what we've had in years past. But we're still, I think we're still on track to surpass the amount of BLPs we had last year. Just looking at the numbers, looks like we're about 60 building location permits behind where we were for a total of last year. So we'll either meet or exceed that number.
And related to BLPs and permits in general, and I'm going to piggyback on the announcements piece. I just want to restate for the public that we do still have a fraud alert out there.
Yeah.
We don't know if or when it's going to go away, but just so the public's aware that we have people attempting to act like the county planning department or whatever other name they choose to use. That's not exactly correct. County planning and building department and a few other iterations, but they're sending false invoices out, requesting payment on behalf of the quote unquote county. So I just want to restate what I said at the business meeting last week, which is please contact the planning department to confirm if you believe you have been requested to pay any type of a fee so that you can get verification before making a payment, because the methods being requested for payment are not consistent with how our county operates. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, again. Thank you, Commissioner. For public records this month, we had 43, which seems to be kind of the theme. As of late, we typically get around 40 to 48 every month, and we'll probably surpass what we had this past year, and it'll look probably closer to 2023 for the number of public records requests we get. I guess another announcement, we did have some backlog of public records requests just with the change in our legal counsel. But as I understand it, we are back on track and fulfilling them within our statutory requirement.
And do you know if the types of requests are still fairly consistent versus have we headed down a path of a new category of requests?
No, nothing new. It's
Okay.
usually records of permits or land use actions on certain properties, or compliance actions or anything like that. Nothing really out of the norm.
Thank you.
So for our Title 12 applications, so we did see a significant uptick in minor land division applications and land division applications in general in October. Obviously, with the change in our ordinance this past week and a half, a lot of folks have been turning minor land divisions in. And I guess I do have announcements, more than I think about it. So once that ordinance has been published in the Daily Bee, we will no longer be accepting minor land division applications, and everything will be a short subdivision or long subdivision application. For quasi judicial files, so those are your hearing files, we received 14 in October, which is about what we typically get around April, May. So right before building season, and then usually right after building season is when we'll start getting a lot more of those quasi judicial files with usually with variances is our most applied for application. And with our administrative land use files, so those are boundary line adjustments, lot line adjustments, certificates of compliance, and anything that is reviewed by staff. We received 51 this past month. And I will go into exactly what we had. So we received no subdivision or short plat applications this month, or in October, I should say, not November. In October, we received 16 minor land divisions and 4 family divisions. We received 2 amendments, but those 2 amendments were, I believe one was a comprehensive plan map amendment. The other was a area of impact application. So it's mostly, and similar with the one here in May, that's where we had 8 there. That's mostly the area of impact amendments. And since we don't typically, they don't fall under Title 12, but we have to make a file for them for some reason, or for something, we've just put those into the amendment. So it's not a reflection of the code change amendments or the comprehensive plan map amendments that we would get, just more of a ease of filing. Zone changes, we received 2 conditional use permits, 2. We received 5 variances, 1 modification. We received 2 vacation applications for, those would be road or plat vacations. We received 3 boundary line adjustments, 5 lot line adjustments, 1 home occupation permit, and we received 33 vacation rental permits. We've received 1 administrative exception, 2 administrative variances, 6 floodplain development permits, and no certificates of compliance. Are there any questions on the file totals for this month?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, now I'll get to building violations and I'll turn it over to Katie.
There are no violations. There's always violations.
You wish.
I was
They're
trying.
never ending. So this time of year, well, in October, it's usually the last push for people to get started on their building location permits. So there wasn't a lot of building violations. There was 6 started in October. There were 7 that were closed and 4 BLPs that were submitted to abate a violation, so. And then zoning violations, same, there wasn't very many. 4, I guess there usually isn't very many zoning violations. I mean, we're at a total of 57 so far. So 4 were started, and it looks like 4 were closed this last month. So it's good. I feel like it's kind of on track of what we can hope for, so.
Okay, do we have, do we have any regular times a year where there's communication that happens with the different realtor brokerage firms, things of that nature, the Realtors Association, to help with education so that folks coming into the community are aware of our...
There used to be. They used to hold a meeting with just like educational purposes, and but they haven't done that in several years. So it
Yeah,
might
and
be-
if they have, we have not been invited.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the realtors put it on, right?
Yeah, I think the Realtors Association still does have at least a yearly meeting. And if I recall, the last one we went to was probably in 23, maybe 22.
Maybe even 21.
But we at least have not been invited.
Would you
And
mind reaching out? It would be great to make them aware that we have some recent changes to our code that they may like to understand and help disseminate accurate information to
sure, yeah.
the
And
members of the community coming in.
yeah, and that's another thing, like with our public records request, it is usually from a lot of realtors.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of realtors that obviously will just say something so they can, make their commission or make their sale, but
Never heard that.
right? And unfortunately, it ends up falling back on the property owners or the purchasers of those properties that buy a problem that they don't know that they had, or buy something in hopes that they could do something on a realtor's promise or advice. Another PSA, I suppose. If you are buying a property, feel free to call the Bonner County Planning Department. We can direct you in the right way, or we can direct you in certain places of our code and areas of uses that
Can you just open up a hotline number?
it's always available.
We're here to help.
Yep, we're here to help.
What's his desk extension? Right to Alex.
It is a great PSA though, because I know, for example, that we have a lot of, legally existing non-conforming parcels that if you just look at the zoning, it wouldn't be evident to the average person whether or not you can actually build on that parcel.
Sure.
Without asking a planner to do the research, so,
Right.
thank you.
Thanks, Katie. So I'll get to our org chart. Nothing's changed in the org chart since last month. There's still an opening for the planning director. I believe, though, in the last month, we did not have a resignation. So we received a resignation for the hearing coordinator position. So we'll be advertising for that position shortly. Jeannie Welter, our systems technician, she is in the office and back in the swing of things. So you'll probably see her more often, and she'll probably be attending these meetings as well. Since she works on all of our software and everything, she's a little more better equipped at giving the technical versions of the software stuff than I am. So she'll be attending those to give updates on that. She'll be around. So I'll probably bring her up to introduce her to all you guys if you haven't met her yet. So
Been a few years since I saw Jeannie last.
oh, okay. Other than that, we have a full compliance staff and permit staff and full planning staff. We are just looking for a director. So do our financial analysis. So there was since this year, the salaries are being rolled up into the general fund. We did have, I was a little confused by the budget analysis or the budget this year, or for this last month. I did go talk to auditing to make sure I wasn't completely crazy. I have three line items here for our revenue and expenses. So our revenue this month was $112,934.70. Our expense as an office for just our office use was $4,764.21. And we had the expenses, this includes our salaries, but from what I understand from the auditor's office is that after this month or maybe next month, we won't be seeing that in the budget report. So we'll just be, from then on, I'll probably just be giving a report on our actual expenditures as the office rather than our salaries. I did not put a budget revenue to expense versus actual here percentage because it would seem silly to me to say, well, we had a 600% revenue to expense budget here, or revenue to expense for the month. So it just did not seem realistic. Our revenue, a lot of that carried over from the previous month for building location permits. Like I was saying earlier, we only had 60-something BLPs, but we had $55,000 in BLP revenue. So it was not something that I felt was realistic in giving our budget number, so I did not include that percentage number. But it seems to be that we're, at least for our revenue, we exceeded last October. But again, it's just the change in our, in the way our system works and the way we operate for BLPs. So that's where a lot of that is, and we'll probably see that same trend as well once we start moving all of our land use applications over into the same system that the BLPs are in, where we won't be taking money right away. We'll be taking money after it's been reviewed and make sure that they have everything at least to submit the application. Any questions on the budget?
No, thank you. I agree with your approach that because of the shift with personnel costs, I don't see why you would try to report that percentage.
Right. And this is just our typical, what do you call that? Bar chart, sorry. That's just what we typically have, just shows our revenue to expenses by the year. And this shouldn't be off by any means. I use the numbers that are the real numbers rather than our inflated numbers for the budget. Did I include this twice?
Inflated.
Well, inflated as in like using the salary number for our expenses.
I see. Thank you.
Clarification makes sense.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Accurate numbers based on what you're being asked to report.
Yes, thank you for my clarification. We just went through that. I must have included this twice.
Actually, yeah, I think the compliance stuff just ended up earlier than it normally should in the presentation.
Yep, that's probably
It
right.
was just a little out of order from the normal agenda.
All right, so I'll go through all the other things, though I don't have paper here. So our software updates, again, we're going to be working through this winter, and it's going to be really great since Jeannie's back here, we can start identifying some applications that we want to start with, integrating into that system. We'll probably start with our applications that have less information on them. So our variance applications and our not building locations, our boundary line adjustment applications. Those are 1 or 2 pagers that should be pretty quick and easy to implement. And then we'll gradually start adding more. Hopefully our goal is to be done prior to our busy season. So hopefully we can have all those implemented by April is our goal in the office. With Deckard, so our vacation rental identification system. So as the board knows, we are not using them as our platform for permitting. That it's only just a compliance platform for us now. We did receive all the information that was in their system that was not processed yet. And Katie has been doing a great job at adding all those into our current system and getting it updated so we can get those reviewed and out the door. I think right now Katie has maybe 60 more to input. When we had somewhere around 200. So she's been turning them out and doing a great job at getting those in so we can get them reviewed and get them issued. That being said, I don't know, we haven't really done any compliance work with Deckard yet. Mostly we need to see how it's going to work out with them not being the servicer of the permitting because their application was tied to their compliance portion of it. So we're going to see how accurate it reflects and possibly if it's not keeping up or if it's not accurate in its portrayal of what is actually going on in the county, then maybe we'll revisit looking at something else or just going back to what we were doing instead of that expense for that software. I think that's it for software updates. Went through the staffing.
Can I ask you on the software?
Sure.
Are you seeing that people, originally when we were rolling out kind of self-service, you had people that were coming in with some issues. Has that kind of just died down?
For the most part,
most part,
yeah.
okay.
I think there's still, one or two people that need a little bit more help or might be a little, what's the
Less
way to put
computer
it?
savvy?
Yeah, less computer savvy. That need a little bit more help, but our staff has been great in helping helping out people whenever they're coming to the office or answering questions over the phone. We've seen that it's been a really it's way more beneficial for our staff. It cuts down a lot of data entry time, so we can process a lot of BLPs in a shorter amount of time. We are still roughly, 4 to 6 weeks for building permits. That's the timeline we give. We obviously are hoping to be on that 4-week end, but all permits are different. Not everything isn't always. That's the number we give once we have deemed it complete, 4 to 6 weeks. So I think that's something that maybe we could do a little bit better job at. We've had some people complaining about that, and it's like, well, you didn't provide a site plan or whatever, so we haven't done your permit yet. So
I think it's noteworthy to point out that there has been a decrease in public frustrations over the transition, and so they have acclimated and given staff credit for that interaction because it has freed up time to work and kind of shorten the line in a different area. And so when people are looking for the cost benefit of the self-serve option, I think it's important to point out that we've kind of hit kind of like the plateau of we're used to it now with some people that you'll always have people that need help, but that the number of people that were having frustrations with it has actually died down quite a bit. So you guys have done a good job managing that process. So
thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I do agree that our intent would be to be as efficient as we can in the processing. So if we have the ability to reduce turnaround time, then that's obviously the goal. But
Yeah.
quality is the first and foremost aspect of doing it properly and then
Agreed.
as efficiently as we can to get them turned around. So appreciate that.
Agreed. Yeah, it's also given our planning technicians more time to do kind of the other part of their job, which is more the administrative land use files that we have. They typically will work on boundary line adjustments and lot line adjustments and those things so we can free up the planners so their workload isn't as heavy with all the hearing files that they have as well. I know most of my planners have anywhere from 70 to 100 files assigned to them at any time. So taking some of the work off of them has been really beneficial, and it's been great in the staff collaborating together to make sure we're turning out a consistent product.
Great.
Let's see. For pending proposed ordinance changes, I think the only thing I had there, I don't think there's any ordinance changes for Title 12 coming up from the Planning Commission. Obviously, they're working through chapters 3 and 4, but you guys won't see that for at least a few months, maybe not even till. Their goal is to have something ready to go by spring. I think that's a pretty lofty goal. It's a lot of work to get through. And just for example, the other night we went through 3 paragraphs in an hour and a half. So it's going to be a pretty long road ahead, I think, for this. But it's been great conversation that we've had with them, and they're taking what has been proposed in the comprehensive plan and kind of running with it and applying it actually into code. So it should be, probably won't see anything from them, I would bet, maybe till the end of next summer. I think that's the most realistic goal, but we'll see.
And Alex, from a process perspective, as the planning commission, they're working on chapters 3 and 4 now, but it would apply to any section of it, of the code. If, as they're working on a section, there's almost always other sections that are referenced or applicable. So what approach or process is being taken to understand that there may be some other related sections that also need to get updated due to those references? How's that going to be addressed?
That's typically going to be they're going to rely on the staff to identify that, since we're the ones that are the experts in this code, and see which ones would correlate with others or what cause would affect the other.
Okay.
So they'll rely heavily on staff to point that out.
So that's because that's been brought up, as that's identified, then is it possible you'll come back to the board with an expansion of scope of whatever the amendment recommendations are going to be based on that?
It could be. It really kind of depends on the planning commission. In past, we've kind of taken small bites out of the code, so it's a little bit more palatable the first time, first read, and then try to fix those things later, but that could cause issues. I can see how that can cause issues. So I will work on identifying things as we go through chapters 3 and 4, and before we go to a hearing or anything, or create a file on it even, I would probably do a couple once-overs with the planning staff and with the planning commission, just to make sure we're getting everything.
So if it's identified there are some areas that are related and important, the planning commission could make the recommendation that those areas also be considered for amendment at the same time if they think it's.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
So the only other thing is the Title 11 changes that we've been working on. We brought it to you guys in a workshop, I believe it was in March this year. And obviously we've had a few other things cooking at the same time, so that's kind of gone on the back burner. But Katie and I recently opened up that draft again a few weeks ago, and I, for the most part, added all the changes that the board had recommended. So really the question is, do you guys want to have another workshop on it, or would you rather us just take it to the planning commission to workshop and then we'll bring it up to a hearing?
You have an opinion, Commissioner?
Trying to cycle back because I think you're going to a time when I missed things, and I think maybe that's one of the, 'cause you're in March.
There were a lot of definitions reviewed.
Yeah.
I think both there, I had to go back and rewatch it because.
It's been a while.
If I was there, I don't need to do another one. I say send it to the planning, let them do it and bring it forward so we can vote and move on.
Okay.
I know there's something that happened that I wasn't here for, and somebody called me and said, what are they doing with this? And I said, you're calling the one that wasn't there. So that would be my position on it. There's a hand up in the address bar.
I believe
thingy,
it's,
and I don't know if it's one of. Who is that?
She just has Karen.
Oh, that's, you want to throw bets? I'm going to say Karen Kelly.
Go ahead. We'll ask her to state her name. Karen, could you please state your name and residency for the record?
Yes, this is Karen Kelly for the record, and I live in Bonner County. Thank you. And I'm late joining this, but I want to ask a question before you leave. At the recent Planning Commission meeting, on the agenda was to begin somewhere down the line on a wedding venue change of code. And I don't remember, is that something that you directed them to do? I was wondering where the direction came to rewrite that, just documentation.
I can answer that, commissioners, if you
Please
want.
do, because I don't
Sure.
have any knowledge of directing.
Sure.
I want to
Yeah.
be careful also
Yeah.
of that topic.
Well, it would be a legislative file, so it's,
I know.
there's no ex parte communication or anything. So, Karen, when it has been something that has been talked about for a while internally with the Planning Commission and the Planning Department. In 12-339, I believe, of our current code, if there's a use that has not been defined, or a use that has there is a need for that specific use in a code, we're directed to define that and then add it to that table. So it's just something that has been coming for a while, and something that the planning department took a initial review at, and an initial draft of that code, and it will go to the planning commission at some point. It'll likely get brought up during this chapter 3 and 4 review, because that's where it would end up, in chapter 3 and some of the use tables. So the board did not give any direction to add that code. That was something that was done by the planning department and the planning commission.
That's fine. I attended many of those planning commission meetings, and I don't remember the planning commission asking for it, but I do remember it coming from, maybe started a little with Jake. We all know the background of all of this, and there's a lot of interest. So I just want to make sure that, or just wanted to discuss how it was being brought up and added to planning commission. And again, it doesn't sound like that commissioners directed it, but it's a planning department initiative.
Thank you. Mr. Linscott.
Matt Linscott, Bonner County. No, we're going back well over a year when we first started talking about that conversation, because we don't specifically list wedding venues in there. And so it was, I think, even more than a year ago when we first brought this up. So it was discussed for quite some time.
Thank you.
When we're looking at all the updates, I know one thing that I do not like is the website that you search the code on. I don't know why we even have a search bar, because it doesn't do anything.
That
And it is
is,
very irritating.
that is out of our control, unfortunately, with the search function at least, not with who we contract with for codifying.
And my view is, this is the most unhelpful aspect when you're trying to find something, and sometimes that can answer some questions. I think it might be worth us looking at, why does that function look like it should be there and it's not? Especially select the language, like we're about to translate our code into another language, but
Right.
some people do go there thinking they can type in subdivision and that all of the sections will appear, and it doesn't. So if we're not going to do that, get rid of it. Or maybe there's somebody else that manages code that does something different. But I absolutely hate that about the website.
I would agree. There's a lot of internal frustration with our current codifier as well. I know there's other municipalities around that do not use that, and it's actually gotten away from that codifier. We've seen a handful of mistakes made by that codifier, not following the ordinances that we've sent them multiple times and not updating them. And I agree, the search function and the just user friendliness of that codifier's system is not amazing. So I'm happy to look into new
You know when the
systems.
contract is it an annual?
I have no idea.
Would you please research that and let us know?
I can, yeah. It'd probably be something with the prosecutor's office, I would imagine, or maybe Because I know that, I don't think that comes out of our budget because it's not just our code that's in there, it's the entire county code. So I can do a little digging to see who manages that contract and maybe see if we can
And
pick another one.
One idea I had, and I don't know if it's possible, but something that does a link to Lupa off of this library, because people equally
sure.
email me of where do they get that versus, like, I ended up just posting a link on Facebook because people hear it, and even at our own meeting, it was surprising to hear people not understand. The slide was about updating a state law, and then the conversation went into something completely different, and the county cannot change the state law. But this is kind of where people are trying to go for that one-stop shop of how is the board making these decisions? And I think we could do better in this, but it's very frustrating because we've had people starting to come to this site to do that search function, and then all they do is email you back and say it doesn't work.
Sure.
And then I think that they use European date function
Okay.
on some of it versus, and so when I look at it, I recognize that on some of it, but you can never tell consistently once you get past a certain number. And so even now it shows May 16th, 2025, but was this September 10th or the October 9th? I don't know, because it looks like we have to pick one, and I think you have to pick the one of the country that we're in, not use the European one. I noticed that too. My answer was I'm pretty sure, because they said the dates wrong. I'm like, it's European, but
Yeah, and if I
it
were
looks
to,
inconsistent on it.
if I recall, I believe that there's a lot of outsourcing to India and other countries with this codifier.
This all goes back to, let's review our options.
Yeah.
Let's review our options. And it might even be something worthwhile to see if the technology department could put something together. There is some merit to having a third party doing it, just so there's no conflict of interests with any changes of
But if they
ordinances
do
or
it
anything.
wrong,
Karen, could you please mute your microphone?
I think that as you.
I don't know how, I'll try.
Thank you.
As the county improves its
Thank you.
services, then people start to notice something else wrong. And when it's not ours, because this is not us doing it, we just give them our information.
We just give them more money.
Yeah, we
Right.
give them.
They give us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm happy to see who holds the contract on it and see if we can maybe do some internal option. I don't know how much it costs or anything like that, but I do know, well, we share similar frustrations, Commissioner Williams.
But again, it's kind of the ROI, even if we were doing a third party, what are we getting for the cost? And
Right.
it goes back to the initial public comment about also the process. If we work with a different codifier, there might be a different process we utilize, which could be a better process when it comes to security of data.
Sure.
And my only other one is they give a disclaimer that it might not be actually updated, so we should know when they're supposed to be updated, because
So,
when we're using it as in the meeting, I should know that those are the most updated ones, and it
Right.
disclaimers that this is like, the code of ordinances and/or other documents appear on this may not reflect the most current legislation adopted by the municipality.
right.
So when do they update it?
It all depends on how quickly they work, honestly, and I have no actual timeline of that. We do have, at least when they've received it and maybe haven't put it into the official code, on the sidebar there is an ordinances pending review for codification. I'm assuming that's their review because obviously our review is done. So those ordinances will be listed on there if there are any that are pending their codification. But it's not, you don't always know to look.
Yeah, and so I think we need to get a little bit more out of what are we paying for, and is there a better option, especially for searching, because we're trying, especially as we're moving towards improving our, definitions and whatnot. I think this is an area where we could look at, and I'm gonna give a disclaimer of, I don't know that I want to say technology, try to add another task,
Sure.
But I think it's something that we should consider only because technology is working on migration.
Yep.
So
No,
I did my
agree.
liaison shout out. If those two vote to give them extra work, I'm going to say it was Alex recommended more work for you. But
I wouldn't say recommended, I would say.
you said, let's see, run the tape back. I heard technology. But that was my only thing, and not because people are complaining about us. It's just
Yeah.
not. We're updating stuff, and that one is lagged.
Nope, I think the entire planning department would agree. And probably all the other departments as well that
So
have to use this
since-
code normally.
Katie's gone down from 200 to 40. She has time to update.
Have to get back to violations.
We don't enforce them anyhow, is what I hear, so. And on that note,
Yeah, no comment.
So I guess back to my original question. Do we want the planning commission to review Title 11?
oh, I thought we said, yeah, just.
Oh, I didn't get it. I didn't know if I
For
got it
clarity,
clear.
please proceed with the planning commission.
Okay.
Starting their review within their priority schedule.
Yep, I can do that. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else unless the commissioners have anything else you want to.
If I may.
You
Mr.
say you
Linscott.
never have comments.
I know, I do when something gets brought up. Matt Linscott, Bonner County. You know, the reason why we spoke about this, the planning commission, a couple years ago, whether we want to go ahead and take up Title 11. Loop is land use. That's what creates the ability for the commissioners to go ahead and create the commission. But Title 11 is building regulations. That may not be in the purview of LUPA to do so. Just something to take in consideration.
Appreciate that. The last legal opinion we got on that through the former planning director from legal counsel at the time was that it was appropriate, but we can run that through the
Yeah, as far,
legal review again. It's
I'd like to see opinions that had substance to the why, not just the that, because I've heard Mr. Linscott's argument on that before, and I think there's a need to address what he brought forward on that issue, because Bill's opinion was kind of just like a green light, red light issue versus this is the reason why it is versus the reason why it's not. And whichever direction the board takes, I think we need to rest it on some rules, not just an email. Because I've heard his comment, that one's hard because we don't do building stuff in Bonner County. And so are we tiptoeing over something that we're not messing with? So I'd like to ask the question, do the thing of like in writing to legal and ask for a well-reasoned legal opinion as to the Title 11 aspect of it. If that's all right.
yeah, I can follow up with Nate.
Yep, that's a good point raised.
And and just from my perspective, the way I see it, Title 11 is the actual real implementation of Title 12 on the ground, because that's where a lot of our uses come from and a lot of our setbacks and that sort of thing. I think it's more than relevant, and plus with kind of the proposal we have, it's kind of a wholesale change, not so much in the way of we're adopting a building code, but more of we've reorganized a lot of things and taken things out from here and added things here. So I think it's not a bad idea to have more than one set of eyes on the change that we've got.
I think there's a little bit of crossover in Title 11 of we're addressing, some things that seem like we're crossing over into we don't do building inspections. And so are we crossing a little bit farther into what we don't do, even though there are elements within Title 11 that seem reasonable and appropriate? Some of it feels like that, and that's where I think we get some of the community of, well, how do we enforce it, or what are we using to do some things when we don't have a building inspector? And in some, like, because when we were doing some changes, I remembered sitting here thinking, like the building location permit for a propane tank, I would never have thought that that was a building location permit requirement. And there's just some things where it just feels like we do, but are we a little bit overreaching if we're not going to have that function in the county?
Sure.
There's also, I think, perhaps a historical aspect to it as compared to just a legal structure aspect of, I
Did
almost
you kind
wonder.
of say it's how we've always done it?
I'm
by
wondering
trying
if
not to
Title
let it-
11 really should, if the reality is the way we use Title 11, I think maybe it should just live in Title 12. Because that's really what it is functionally. It's the definitions and administrative application of Title 12 requirements. It's really not a
Building
a
regulation.
building regulation
Sure.
title. I mean, from my perspective, it feels like it's a leftover and we just kept using that category of Title 11 because we had it previously versus structurally, does it make sense?
Yeah, and that could be when we eliminated the building department in, I think it was 96. They kind of,
Scott was
in as fast as the government can cobble something together, it kind of was
Yeah.
cobbled together, put into, I believe, I don't know if it was Title 11 then, obviously, because they changed all of, no, it was Title 11 because that goes further past 2008 when the wholesale changes were made for Title 12. So I think it's always lived there. It just probably, you could be right that,
Like I said, there might be a legal structural aspect to it I'm not aware of, but from a semantics perspective of how the information is utilized, it seems to me like you'd be better off living as another chapter or appendix within Title 12.
sure, yeah.
Can I make one more
Mr.
comment?
Linscott.
Matt Linscott still. Review feedback on land use staff reports for previous heard files. If I can make a comment on that. In the real estate world, when we do a closing and we have a representing a buyer and they get a warranty deed, the title company does what they refer to as a date down. What that means before they go ahead and transfer those funds, before they record that warranty deed, they go ahead and check with the recorder's office, verify that you don't have some shyster of a seller who quick deeded off 2 minutes before knowing that this other one's going to be, and it's going to create an issue. So that's what they refer to as a date down, to verify the information is up to date, up to the time of that recording. I don't know exactly how staff does it. It appears to me soils. So in the original staff report, they do a staff and they do their analysis on the soils. But it seems to me that as those files progress and they go to hearing or even a reconsideration, they're not updated. We had a situation on one USDA NRCS changed the soils to no longer prime if drained, but farmland of statewide importance. Without doing that date down, up to the date of the actual hearing, and I don't know if you guys do this or not, I haven't seen it, but maybe you do, it's not in view, to go ahead and verify that. So all that information is completely accurate at the time of the hearing. It was because of that, and, I think, looking for a possible second reconsideration because of that, because something was missed, and I spoke with Alex, apparently Nate doesn't believe we're allowed to have 2 reconsiderations, but in that process of digging pretty deep in this stuff, I made some public records requests. We do not have an officially adopted zoning map signed and attested in Bonner County. We do not. And perhaps you can have that discussion. I think that's vitally important. Got to understand what the repercussions are of that if we don't have an official zoning map signed.
Thank you. We have any additional closing remarks from staff?
I can at least speak to our staff reports. There is our staff reports are accurate at the time of publishing, and then when at the time of a hearing, that information could change. In Mr. Linscott's example, it could be that, in between when the staff report's published and at the time of the hearing, and that's why in our motions, the board will say it's adopted or the information received at the time the staff report was published and received at the hearing. So the information could be different if the information had changed. Typically not, obviously. In this case, the soils map changes every few years probably. So you never know. We never know when it's going to be updated until the USDA tells us it's updated. Even then, we don't have anything, all the information that we use, especially in the comprehensive plan or even in our GIS system, is all updated as of 2022 rather than 2025. As far as I know, USDA did supply us with new soil data, but nothing is codified or even mentioned in our comprehensive plan to use that data. It's to use the 2022 data. So it's probably something that we should update in the comprehensive plan. And I will be bringing that up to the Planning Commission to make an update and probably use a new soil map in there and a new soil index. But at this time, we're still using the 2022 data.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams, any final
Nothing further.
comments? Katie? All right, then it's 1:55 and this meeting is adjourned.